enjoy the podcast too.
What is up, everyone? It is Tuesday night, which means it is time for TCR Live, when we talk about what happened this last week. And there are two people on this live stream right now who have very different feelings about what happened Sunday. I, as I'm sure you know, did not love the outcome, didn't love it. But I'm joined by one Mr. Josh Butts of the No Butts About It podcast, a fantastic up-and-coming podcast that does NFL stuff, maybe a little bit of focus on their division. But Josh is a Bengals fan, so clearly he has a very different opinion. Josh, thank you for joining me. How are you doing, and what are your thoughts about this most recent game?
Well, thanks for having me. I am doing great, especially after Sunday. This, for me, was a make or break game. And I think for a lot of Bengals fans, this was a make or break game. And like I said on my channel, people came into this or look at this game and they say, you beat the Cardinals. Okay, congrats, Bengals. The Cardinals are a very good team. Like, they put in fight. They're 1-3, but they're one of those teams where it doesn't tell the whole story. Now they're 1-4, but they put up a fight against the 49ers for a while. They beat the Dallas Cowboys. I was honestly scared coming into this game. So for us to win this game the way that we did makes me feel a lot better about this team.
Well, I appreciate you, coddling my delicate feelings about that game and helping me to feel a little better by speaking well of my team. But yeah, no, I mean, the Cardinals aren't a good team, but they're a competitive team, right? And we've been saying I know I've been saying, other people have been saying that this team is going to lose games because of a talent mismatch, because they're rebuilding. Their best talent are young players that are developing. They've got a few good players that are veterans, but a lot of them are injured. They are in a rebuild, right? And they're establishing their culture. They're getting the systems in, but they're going to have to add an infusion of talent through the draft, right? So, so they're a competitive team, but when you face a team that has, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, there's a point where the Cardinals talent just can't keep up with that, which is what we saw. But yeah, I mean, this team though plays hard, and there's some mistakes here and there, but generally they're well coached. I think it is the take. So it was encouraging to hear from you that you saw some good things there. I'm going to say hey to some of the folks in the chat real quick, and then we'll get into talking more about the game. Ron Boyd Bubble, thanks for being here. What's up to whoever is playing with the emojis with me? Grandizer doing what he does, putting all the links in the chat. Thank you, Grandizer. You are the real MVP. Grandizer supports a lot of challenge, comes in here and does this the Lord's work in this way. Mikey Desert Cardinal, thanks for being here. What's up, Arizona Cardinals family? Hooday, right?
Hooday, that's right.
Right. Hey, yo, we got Brett Jones. Thanks for being with the sunburn looks to be getting better. Yes, thanks. You probably saw that I put that on Twitter. It's turning into kind of a tan. I play music for fun, and I was out for a gig on a beautiful day, and I thought there'd be cloud cover, and it didn't stick around, and I regretted that life choice. But thank you, Brett. I appreciate that. It's getting better. Lots of aloe. I got a whole thing of aloe like 5 or 6 times a day. So, but thank you. So, okay. Let's start with some of the kind of the more critical things, in terms of, what were some of the things that you saw from the Cardinals that they need to work on? Like, just, the areas, and I know a lot of it was pretty clear and evident, but from your perspective, what were some of the areas, particularly looking at the Cardinals, where you saw as an outsider that they were struggling?
So it seemed to me that they struggled in coverage. Obviously, I mean, Jamar Chase out there, that's the obvious one. But Trent and Irwin's our wide receiver 4. He's not a starter, and he was getting open very easily across the middle. He did cause an interception when he stumbled and fell, but for most of the game, he was Burrow's go-to guy if Jamar Chase wasn't open. And we're talking T. Higgins wasn't there. And so I think the Cardinals should be worried if they're not able to cover Trent and Irwin. And this is coming from a Trent and Irwin fan. I love Trent and Irwin, but it was way too easy for him to get open. And then the other thing I noticed was Josh Dobbs. I know coming into this game that Josh Dobbs hadn't thrown an interception. That was the big story. Him, Brock Purdy, and CJ Stroud had not thrown an interception coming into this week. He threw 2, and I think he easily could have thrown more. Very easily.
1 to 2 more he should have had.
Yeah. Logan Wilson, off the top of my mind, had a huge drop. He had like 5 chances to catch it, and he dropped it.
Yeah.
But there were others that I just think if our guys had been a little bit quicker, they would have been interceptions.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, they were not covering Jamar Chase like it seemed at all, right? I was disappointed that they did not decide to try to double team him and take him out of the game. Whether they could have or not is a whole other question. But it seemed like they weren't even trying to put the clamps on him. You don't get that kind of historic game if they aren't. So if you're not going to put the clamps on Jamar Chase, you better be shutting everyone else down. And, Irwin, who you mentioned is a player you like and, maybe an unheralded player, but if Jamar Chase is getting free run, the Irwins of the world should not also be having a good game, right? And that's kind of the point there. Yeah. And so that was definitely disappointing and frustrating. Got a couple more comments. Granders is saying I was playing a Grateful Dead song set. So one song is 20, 40 minutes. The guy I play with likes the Grateful Dead. We play 1 or 2 others. We do a few jam songs that last a while. Aaron Van Buren, my good buddy. What's up, guys? Josh, what's the best chili place in Cincy?
I'm actually not from Cincinnati. I've only been there once or twice. The reason I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan is because in 2013, they drafted a guy from my hometown, Tyler Eifert. So I started rooting for him. And then Jesse Bates is also from my hometown. And then we had a practice squad player for a minute who was also from my hometown. So they like guys from my hometown. I think I'm required to say, though, Skyline Chili is the best chili place as the official chili of the Cincinnati Bengals, but I honestly don't know.
Okay. I've never had Cincinnati chili and so Aaron respects it. So Aaron is a Cardinals fan who's not from Arizona. So he gets it, right?
He understands.
So yeah. Okay. Docs Cards, thanks for being here. At what point does a fire sale start? Ertz and Connor can't be part of the future plans. Older and injured too often for a rebuild. All right, Docs Cards. That's an interesting question. I mean, I feel like they had a little bit of a fire sale that just weren't any buyers with DeAndre Hopkins. But I'll let you take. What do you think about this as an outsider, objectively speaking, looking at that Ertz and Connor and a fire sale? What do you think about that?
So Zach Ertz. I mean, he's probably, you're not going to get much for him. I think he's pretty old. I'm not sure he's going to be starter material anymore. Kind of the same thing with James Conner. He's a 2017 rookie, and especially where the league's mantra is running backs don't matter. I don't know that the NFL as a whole is going to want to trade a lot for James Conner. They might just wait for him to be a free agent. He's been injury prone since he was with the Steelers. I will say, though, he was annoying me during the game against the Bengals up until he got hurt. And I don't want him to get hurt, obviously, but that might have been a game-changing injury, to be honest, because he was running all over our defense.
So yeah, and you as a fan of a player and a team, you want the other team to be annoyed by your guys. So that's what you want to hear. Connor has been really good this year. I mean, watching him, some people outside don't really pay attention, don't see that, but he's been really good. Yeah, so my response when people have in my live streams have brought up the idea of trading Ertz a few times, and my response has always been, I just don't think there's gonna be a market for him. He's recovering from an injury. He hasn't played particularly well. He's aging. The contract is a little big. I just don't know what team is looking at him and saying, that's the piece we need right now. And I listen, he's had a great career, much respect for what he's done, but he's not playing particularly well right now. Maybe as recovery goes on and the system gets, kind of a little more into the system, everything, things will get better. But I just don't think he has trade value. I'd be surprised they got anyone was willing to offer anything for him at this point. And it's not meant as any shade, but just age, recovering from injury, not playing well. I just don't know what team is saying, yes, let's send a pick there. Connor's injured, so you're not trading him right now. When he's healthy, it probably be past the trade deadline anyway, so it's kind of not a factor. So if you're looking off season, people aren't going to trade for a running back, an aging running back who's had some injury history. And I love Connor. I think he is really good. And I think he's underrated. His only issue is health, right? Being banged up, and a lot of running backs have that issue. So you just have to deal with that. But people just typically aren't going to trade for running backs. Like Dalvin Cook got released and signed. Like if you want a running back, you pick him up as a free agent. So I just don't see that as a realistic thing. Now, if you're talking about in general, the question of a fire sale, are there players that are tradable assets? Maybe. I mean, DJ Humphries, maybe he's not played amazingly well, but he's left tackle with, his contract's not too long left on that, I think. I think they extended it, but maybe a team would go for that, but I'm not so sure about that. Obviously, when Buddha gets back, he would be, but you're not trading him. He is the heart and soul. All right. Jalen Thompson, okay, he's a safety with a /slot corner with kind of a big contract. I think an underrated player. Maybe you could, if maybe they don't, maybe they want to move on from that contract. But he's one of your few decent players that's healthy right now. I just don't know that there are a lot of players that would qualify for a fire sale. Hollywood Brown, I think they want to keep him. He's Kyler's guy, right? There just are not many candidates for a quote unquote fire sale. So that's my concern. I think they made the moves they want to make going in terms of getting people off the roster. I think from here, what they're going to do is move forward with, they got a lot of draft capital coming. I think they're going to build that. So thanks for the question though, Docs Cards. I just don't think it's likely. I don't think it's plausible really, but, so Mikey, Desert Cardinal, Josh Dobbs made critical mistakes. Coverage was terrible. Jamar Chase just owned us. 15 catches, 192 yards, 3 touchdowns. Yes. Romboy Bubble saying Card's biggest issue, we have no depth, right? I mean, that's the tough part, right? A lot of our starters, or at least some of our starters, are guys that would be depth rotation pieces on the other teams. So our depth rotation pieces are some of them are either, very young and maybe might have a future, or are more likely practice squad players in other teams. Brett Jones, Skyline Chili Dog, not bad. Okay. I haven't had it, but maybe someday I'll get there. So, all right. So we talked about what you saw bad. Now, can you talk about some of the specific things that impressed you by the Cardinals? And I know you kind of mentioned briefly a little bit that, but what did they do well? What did you see? And also, how did it compare to what you maybe thought you would see going into the game?
Well, what I thought I would see going into the game was just the defense missing tackles and possibly causing us to lose the game. And to be honest, that's what we saw going into it. I thought Josh Dobbs, though he made a lot of critical mistakes, he also did a very good job of picking up mismatches. And I have no idea why for part of the night Jalen Davis was covering Marquise Brown. That was a terrible decision. Jalen Davis is like the cornerback 5, and he was the guy who was covering him on the touchdown. Nick Scott is another guy who he's a starting safety, but I have no idea why. He misses tackles like 9 times out of 10. And the Cardinals did a very good job at noticing that, picking up on that, and targeting him. It seemed like whenever there was a maybe 50-50 ball that Josh Dobbs threw, he made sure it was going towards Nick Scott or Jalen Davis. And then when those guys missed, that was when they got the first down. And the Cardinals picked up on that, and they continued to attack that until they forced the Bengals to change their game plan. And I think that was a very, very good move by the Cardinals, and it resulted in a couple scores.
Yeah, yeah. Josh Dobbs is interesting. He's very smart. He knows the offense, and he's I think overperformed what a lot of people would have expect from a career backup who was brought in a week before the season started. But even though he didn't have any interceptions, I was talking about this on my live stream last night where we look at the PFF grades. PFF tracks something that they call turnover worthy throws, right? And those are throws like the one that you mentioned to Logan Wilson, who he bobbled it. That's a turnover worthy throw, even if it wasn't a turnover. And I think that's a really useful thing to look at, because sometimes how a quarterback plays is not always reflected in the stats accurately. Sometimes they play better or worse, right? And when you have, he had like 4 turnover worthy throws, I think, going into this game, but none of them were turnovers. But then he had the turnovers. His luck ran out, and so he does some nice things, but he doesn't always do them consistently. And that's why he's a backup and not a starter. Right.
Right.
Got a question here. Question from United Kingdom. What skills, if any, are transferable between tackle and guard? I ask because could Humphries be a guard of the future if they draft highly rated tackle like Joe Alt? Do you want to tackle that, or do you want me to, or both?
I'll let you do that one.
Okay. So here's the deal. Generally speaking, players who are tackles, offensive tackles in college, if their arms are shorter, like if they don't have long arms often, or their movement skills aren't quite, up to par to keep up with pass rushes in the NFL, they get moved into guard, right? So it's kind of like generally the way it works is if you're tackling in college, but you can't really maintain that, or you can't play at tackle in pros, then you move into guard. And some players who do that do quite well. So, in terms of how it works, yes, a tackle could absolutely move into guard. There is some difference. Tackles have to kind of play a little more, when they get in, when the snap happens, they're kind of mirroring and moving with the pass rusher and trying to kind of respond to their moves almost more, almost like a wrestler in some ways, whereas a guard has to react to the moves, but it's much more immediate, there in your face, more bull rush. And it's a little bit different, quick kind of reaction. But it's, so there's other things, pulling and stuff in run game. But generally speaking, tackles can play guards. So that, yes, that can happen. However, I don't see, like, Humphries is too old to be a guard of the future, really, I think. And I don't think with his contract, from a roster building perspective, right? In the NFL, when you're building a roster effectively and efficiently, you pay attention to how much you spend on different positions. And there are certain positions that are premium positions that you pay for. Offensive tackle is one of those. You'll pay big money for that. There are other positions that, while they are important from a supply and demand perspective, they're not considered premium positions, because you can find good players late in the draft as free agents who can get the job done. And so you don't pay as much for that. And guard is a non-premium position. Yes, there are some highly paid guards, but you can find decent guards. I mean, look, we got Will Hernandez, who's been really good for us as a guy who was kind of a reclamation project. And you can find guys like that. You can draft them later. So you're just not going to move Humphries into guard, especially with his contract, and he's not going to want to play there. You're right. So I think what's going to happen, I wouldn't be shocked if this was Humphries' last season with the Cardinals. I think his contract, in terms of the dead money, I think he can move off of it after this year pretty well. If Paris Johnson Jr. moves to the left tackle, I think Monty Ossenfort, who is thinking in these roster building strategies, in that kind of mindset, and came from the New England Patriots, where they had a lot of success finding offensive linemen on day 2 and day 3. I suspect the way he's going to look at it is when Paris Johnson Jr. is ready to be that left tackle next year, maybe they move on from DJ Humphries and they draft someone in the 4th round who can be a starting right tackle, and you can find starting right tackles in the 4th and 5th round. And he's got a good track record of finding those guys, and maybe they have a veteran guy that they bring in as a backup plan. So while yes, the transferable skills, this absolutely could work. From a roster perspective, I don't see it working. Do you want to add anything to that?
Just that, I mean, you mentioned the disparity between left tackle and guard and premium and not premium. There's a jump from left tackle to right tackle, even though they're both tackles. The left tackle position, protecting the quarterback's blind side, that takes arguably a ton more skill. We got Orlando Brown Jr. because he wanted to be a left tackle. These guys want to be left tackles because that's the locker room talk. That's I'm the best guy at this, because those are the guys that are going against Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, TJ Watt, these big name pass rushers, and they've got to do a good job. The others are the right tackle is important as well, obviously, but the others you can kind of move around. They're not getting paid as much though. The left tackle is the premium, like creme de la creme position on the O-line.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Humphries wants to continue to be that. And even when, and Brent's saying, yeah, Hump is over the hump with the Cardinals. And Mikey's saying, I think Paris Johnson is more than ready. DJ had a good run, but he has definitely regressed. Time to move on. And I think that DJ Humphries, someone who needs a left tackle is going to pay DJ Humphries to come in and be glad to have him because he's a decent left tackle. We're going to move on from him, I think. So he was saying, thanks for that great explanation. Didn't Leonard Davis get drafted as LT, but was traded to the Cowboys and playing? Yeah. And thank you, by the way. Yeah. So Leonard Davis was drafted to be a tackle and struggled at tackle and moved to guard and was good. Right. He was huge. And I think he just struggled in terms of to move and keep up with those pass rushers, but for whatever reason, yeah, he was absolutely drafted as left tackle, but it didn't work out. And then he was moved to guard and was rather good at it as a guard. So yeah, absolutely. So yeah.
The Bengals did this with Jonah Williams. He was drafted as a left tackle in the first round in, I think, 2019, 2018. And he played that up until this year when Orlando Brown Jr. got brought in. And there was some drama with it because, again, there's that ego. But do you think DJ Humphries would be willing to move over to right tackle if Paris Johnson Jr. comes over? Or do you think he's still good enough where another team will definitely come in and pick him up? Because Jonah tried to pull another team will pick me up and let me be a left tackle. It just didn't happen. So now he's our right tackle. He's having his best season yet.
That's a good question. I could see him being willing to do that for the duration of his contract if they were going to keep him around. But I don't think he would re-sign or sign an extension to do that if he could get starting left tackle job somewhere else. So
okay.
That's but I don't have any inside information. It's just,
right.
Kind of me speculating. So yeah, good question. And I've thought about that because, could he be that right tackle? I think though, from an organizational perspective, I don't think they want to pay someone like him to be a right tackle when you can get someone to come in for, $4 to $7 million a year and be a decent right tackle. So, right now they have a little room to work with because they're rebuilding and they're focusing on the draft. So they're gonna have some cap space. So they could make it work in the short term, but long term, I'd have a hard time seeing him being willing to do that. But we'll see. Right. Yeah. It's a good question though. So the things the Cardinals did well, you talked about what Josh Dobbs did in terms of, when he wasn't throwing interceptions or near interceptions, but his ability to find those mismatches, right? What were some of the other things that you said thought the Cardinals did well?
Just the elusiveness, the awareness that Bengals weren't going to make the tackle the first time. I mean, there's no better way to put it. guys who I consider elusive, like Rondale Moore and James Conner, it seemed like they were getting the ball when they could. The Arizona Cardinals knew that their more agile guys were going to be the key to helping them win that game. And it just made the Bengals look stupid at times. Nick Scott couldn't tackle to save his life that game. Dax Hill was all over the place. Logan Wilson at one point ran from the other side of the field to finish a tackle. The Arizona Cardinals just did a great job of making the Bengals defense look stupid.
How about that Rondale Moore run? You know what I'm talking about? Where he's faking the reverse and he holds the ball out and like just completely fools two Bengals defenders and then runs. That was a really pretty play. I know you didn't love it from your side, but you have to admit it was a really nicely designed play, right?
No, and that's what I mean. Just getting an agile player like Rondale Moore, a guy I consider a quick little fast player.
Oh, very much so.
And putting our defenders on skates, two defenders that easily should have been able to take him. But the way the play is designed, they get so dedicated to going one way that as soon as he switches up, then they're lost. And it just, there's a lot of young defenders on the Bengals now. And I think the Arizona Cardinals took good, they just took advantage of that.
Yeah, I think, the offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing for the Cardinals, first time offensive coordinator, young coach, came from the Browns organization. He's caught some eyes even outside of Arizona. I've seen on Twitter some folks who are not Cardinals analysts, who don't follow the Cardinals directly, or at least don't focus on the Cardinals, talk about how that's a guy who is going to start being in that head coach conversation when you're looking for those up and coming coordinators, because his play design and play calling has been really good for a team that maybe, is lacking a little bit in the elite talent, or at least healthy elite talent, what he's done. So Brett Jones saying tackles that hold move to guard to hide their holding. However, I still see the holding when officials don't call it, right? Yeah, exactly. So okay. What when you look at what the Bengals game plan was, what do you think their game plan was? How were they attacking the Cardinals? What do you think their plan was, and how did the Cardinals react to it? Obviously not, in many cases, not particularly well, but.
So I don't know if you saw this, but last week, Jamar Chase, after the game, he said, I'm always effing open. Get me the ball. I'm always open. And I think that was the mantra for their game plan this week, was if Jamar is available, get him the ball. There were instances where I was like, okay, Jamar isn't open. Who are you going to throw to? No, Jamar was open. He lived up to what he said. Getting Joe Mixon going is another big thing. Zach Taylor has not done a good job of that the past few games. I think still like to see him run a little bit more, but I think we got him going a bit more often, which kind of caused the defense to have to creep up a little bit. They couldn't play deep the entire time. But Jamar Chase, just getting him open, getting Joe going, showing Joe could be mobile. Apparently Zach Taylor didn't like that Joe was running with the ball. The fans loved it because Joe Burrow. He looked like 2020's Ben Roethlisberger the last few weeks, where he just had cement in his feet. And to see him, the one particular play where like three Cardinals defenders were pass rushing him, and he went in a blender and spun out of that and threw the ball. That was huge. That was another huge play. The first down run was my favorite play of the game because it showed me that Joe is back with his legs. And once your legs are back, that opens up the playbook. It's just more you can do. And I think that was the big game plan, was get the ball to Jamar and use your legs when you have to.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little before we went live, that, Joe Burrow was dealing with a calf injury. He had, he was not playing well at all right this year. It was really a rough start for the Bengals as a team, for Joe Burrow as quarterback. And, a lot of Cardinals fans, with the way they had been playing recently, yes, kind of got blown out in the end by the 49ers, but the 49ers are going to do that to a lot of teams. And the way this team has played, being the Cowboys, as you talked about, and the way the Bengals had been playing, a lot of Cardinals fans saw this as a game that we had a good chance to win. And early on, it seemed like we had a chance.
I saw it as a game you guys had a chance to win too.
Yeah.
Scared.
Yeah, right. So as a Bengals fan, you were also scared, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I did, going into this game, just have this thought in the back of my head, like, I've got a bad feeling this might be a get right game for the Bengals.
It definitely was. It was a get right game. And I think if the Bengals had not performed the way that they it was gonna just tank, because Bengals fans are very reactionary, especially the newer ones who have only seen Joe Burrow. So the ones that didn't live through the Andy Dalton, Marvin Lewis era of the Bengals, they're only used to success. And so they'll get on Twitter and they're already like, fire Zach Taylor. I saw stuff that said like Andy Dalton was a better quarterback than Joe Burrow. Like, just very reactionary nonsense.
Right.
And I think there would have been some sort of implosion in Cincinnati if the Bengals had lost this game.
I could see that. Yeah. I mean, with the way things are going, and the Cardinals they're going to end up, Cardinals are one of the worst teams in the NFL. They're going to be that in terms of record. That's just, there was a point where we maybe had a little bit of hope, after that Cowboys win, that, maybe this team's been feisty, maybe. And I still think when Kyler comes back second half of the season, they could go on a little bit of a run, but that, best case scenario in my mind, we're talking a 7-win team with that run, right? With Kyler coming back, they're going to dig a hole. They might win another game or two before Kyler gets back, but but probably not. So yeah. Nicholas, thanks for being here. Really appreciate the kind words. Really enjoy the show, especially with passionate guests from other teams. I love having folks like Josh on here. So yes, thank you, Nicholas. Really appreciate that. Michael Evans, thanks for being here. Secondary, Swiss cheese. Yeah. The Bengals started picking apart just the way Chase was so, I mean, he's a great player, top 3, top 5 receiver in the NFL, but man, if he's, with Higgins out, right, he's the guy. I'm not a coach, so I don't want to be too harsh, but I would have figured they would have figured out some way to put the clamps on him, at least partly, but yeah. And injuries all day. Yeah. So I mean, everyone deals with injuries. We certainly don't have our starting quarterback, and then James Conner going out, that certainly hurt. And I don't know that I wouldn't go so far as saying that I think if Conner hadn't gotten injured, we would have won the game, but it might've been a very different game, at least closer, with him. So
I just know the Bengals' run defense is atrocious, and they were not helping their case with Conner. And another player who I believe got injured during the game, who was annoying me, I believe he's a cornerback, Antonio Hamilton.
Oh, yeah.
He was, I forget who he was covering, but we heard his name a lot during that game, and I got tired of hearing it.
Yes. Which makes my heart sing, right? Yeah, no. Antonio Hamilton, all right. I like Antonio Hamilton a lot as a player. And if you don't know anything about him, he was a player who who I think claimed off waivers from the Buccaneers, right? Okay. Tampa Bay Bucks. And he came in a couple years back and has played really well. He's one of those kind of journeyman veterans, undrafted free agent kind of guy who hadn't really stuck anywhere, but like he played PFF grades in the mid to upper 60s, which is solid, especially for a guy that you get off waivers. And he's been one of our better cornerbacks, but he's older, he's around 30. I don't know if he's 30 yet, but so I suspect the only reason this was his first start this year. Okay. And I suspect the reason is not because he hasn't played well, but more because they've been trying to start Marco Wilson, get him more playing time. And then Keitrell Clark, a rookie. They've been playing the young players. But then when they started him, he did what he's always kind of done for us, has been solid. He had that one tackle that prevented a touchdown if you remember, like when we forced that turnover on downs at the goal line, it was the tackle right before it was the third down tackle.
The Joe Mixon run.
Yeah, there were 2 Joe Mixon runs.
Yeah,
they're like back to back. The one that Antonio Hamilton stopped was probably a tougher one because he didn't have back. It was him in space getting and making a really good tackle. And then the 4th down run, right, was up the middle, and that was kind of a gang tackle getting the stop, right. And then he nearly had that interception later. So yeah, Hamilton is a good player, right? So for sure. Mike Evans saying seems like many teams dink and dunk on us. Yeah, I think probably, although Jamar Chase also had that one over the top touchdown, but that's what they can do on maybe a team that's got some hole, has a hard time covering guys underneath. Brett saying because we have small quarterbacks that can't press and easily get beat by pressing. Yeah, there you go. That makes sense too. Yeah. Hamilton's a good player. He's not maybe a household name, but Cardinals fans have watched him for the last 2 or 3 years and seen good things from him before.
Well, he was annoying me. Who got the heads up reception off of Burrow when Trent and Irwin fell? Do you remember who that was? Just kind of being aware of the situation. I thought that was another good play. I can't quite remember who got the interception. But
oh yeah, well the interception. Oh wait, I've got the stats in front of me. I should remember that, but that was Kayvon Wallace. He's a safety that we I think we picked him up off waivers too. He was drafted by Philadelphia. So Jonathan Gannon, our head coach, had history with him, right? There in Philadelphia and picked him up, right? Dude put that stop on the goal line 100%. Thanks for being here for Chubb. Yeah, so that Kayvon Wallace, he's been a guy who, with Budda Baker being injured, has stepped in and played reasonably well for a guy that you picked up, again, I think off of waivers. So Rapier Gold, thanks for being here. I'm here. Well, glad that you're here. All right, so AZ Cardsner, thanks for being here. I really like Paris' potential as a tackle. I agree. His PFF grades, his pass blocking grade has been okay. His running blocking grade has been great, but he's a rookie. Seen some nice reps from him. I think the future is bright for Paris Johnson Jr. With this team. So definitely feel good about that. Really, like the whole rookie class, or at least those that are playing are showing us some things. Like Paris Johnson Jr. Michael Wilson has looked good. He had a quiet game here, but he's a rookie, so that'll happen. Dante Stills, that defensive lineman who got in there and got a nice stop, he's looked good. So yeah, Xbox Fanatic, thanks for being here. Each year I get excited for the season, then the season starts a few weeks in, I'm getting excited for the next year, right? Yeah. I love the NFL draft, so as a Cardinals fan, I've often had the opportunity to look forward to the draft very early, and we do the mock draft Monday live streams around these parts. And I've started those typically right after the season ends when other teams are playing in the playoffs. But we're in a rebuild. We're excited about it. So any other observations or thoughts from the game, kind of clearing the notebook? Anything else you want to get out there that stood out to you?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I mentioned the Joe Burrow run. That was my big one that I loved. The Jamar Chase obviously killed it. Trent and Irwin killed it. James Conner was killing us before. I did think that the Cardinals O-line held up fairly well. Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard and DJ Reader aren't guys who you're going to hear all over ESPN. They're not like Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett and those guys, but they do put a beating on an offensive line. And Trey Hendrickson, who usually rushes from the left side, I didn't hear his name a whole lot getting sacks.
Yeah.
He did have that strip sack fumble that Sam Hubbard picked up. But other than that, there might have been a few sacks here or there. But for a rookie going against Trey Hendrickson, I think that he held up pretty well.
Yeah. The offensive line has I mean, it has been a big problem. Certainly last year it was. And, obviously we've got a number of new players in the new coaching system, new scheme. And the offensive line hasn't been amazing this year, but it's been okay. I mean, it hasn't been the biggest problem on the team. And I think it's been an improvement. So yeah, it was good to see that or hear that you saw that. Real quick, Dakota Bedard, thanks for being here. 2 months, 2023 bone. Also, welcome to 2024. Then Monty did great with the draft. Yeah, Michael saying that this was his first draft. So much fun. Yeah, well, this was a good year as a Cardinals fan to follow the draft. Xbox Fanatic saying Monty did better than Kime without question. I was really upbeat this offseason about how things are going. And to be honest, I still, and I really am too, right? Four Chubb saying the line looks clean compared to how Kingsbury ran things. I agree. I'm still optimistic because I've got this kind of perspective of we're building for the future. And, you're seeing what you want to see. You're seeing a team, players that are working hard. You're seeing a team that is competitive more than people thought they would be, right? And you're seeing some of the young players show something. That's a starting point. Calvin, thanks for being here. Longtime supporter of the channel. Hey, Joe and Josh, hearing about Connor's rough. Yeah, any updates regarding Buddha? Thanks, guys. Yeah, so Connor's gone on the IR, so he's gone at least 4 games. I haven't heard anything about Buddha, so yeah, no updates that I've heard. I think he's in terms of the IR, I think they've got a couple more weeks, 2 or 3 more weeks at least before he's eligible to return. So I haven't heard anything. Yeah. So, so Josh, one last question. When you look at the Cardinals, with what you saw from them in this game for the rest of the season, what kind of things do you think they should do to leverage their strengths in terms of game plan? How should they try to attack games based on what you saw?
That's a hard one now that James Conner's out for at least 4 games, because I think he's kind of the main weapon, and it's hard to get a strong pass game going with only one receiver that I can think of. Or Marquise Brown is out there too, so Rondale Moore. So honestly, you just got to figure out ways to get those 2 open, I think.
Yeah.
And then have a decent enough run game that they can't just play deep zone the entire time and cover all of your wide receivers. I believe, is that a rookie running back who came in as backup?
DeMarcado, he's an undrafted free agent at TCU.
Yeah. So this might be a good time to see what you can get out of him. Especially with James Conner being older, like we talked about. See if this guy has potential. I think you just got to scheme, though. Figure out ways to get Marquise Brown open. Marquise Brown is a fast receiver. Rondale Moore is a fast receiver. Like I
don't
said,
forget Michael Wilson. He's our rookie. He's
okay.
He's a big receiver. Yeah,
I don't know much about him, but is he a big, like, can go up and get it type guy? Or?
And he gets separation. I have a video about him when they drafted him that you might check it out. Yeah, it's a short video. It's like 2 minutes, so or less. So real quick. Yeah, he's got some really good ability to get separation. Has drawn comparisons, at least in terms of the kinds of things he does, to Devontae Adams. Not saying he's that level, but that profile of player, right?
Gotcha. So then that might be a good guy to have out across the middle, who, if he can climb up and get those contested catches, really see what you can get out of him. I think Josh Dobbs is going to have to not rely on his luck so much, and they're going to have to rely on scheme, at least until Kyler's back.
Yeah.
Because Kyler will bring kind of that legs back to the offense that you're going to be missing with James Conner if this rookie running back doesn't necessarily pan out. But this is a chance for the rookies to show what they can do. This is a chance to get out those bad games, because the Cardinals aren't going to the playoffs this year, especially with the division they're in. So getting this season out of the way and getting those bad games out of the way, this might help them in the future.
Yeah. Grandizer's keeping me honest here. No Bengals questions. So why don't we'll probably wrap it up on this, give you a chance to talk a little bit about your team. From what you saw, what do you think the Bengals need to clean up? And where do they go from here to kind of try to get back on track to being a team that people expect to be in the playoffs?
Yeah. So biggest thing is on defense, you can't have this many missed tackles. You can't have 3 guys needing to tackle one person. Um, it just there were so many plays where it either should have finished behind the line or gone for 1 yard and it turned into a first down. And okay, you can get away with that with the Cardinals maybe. But we have the 49ers right after the bye. Not going to be able to get away with that against the 49ers. They are going to take that all day and they're just going to score every time. Uh Another thing I want to see cleaned up a little bit is just the run defense in general. Part of that goes back to the tackling, but also they're just running it up the middle and hoping DJ Reader is able to stop it. That's not a good plan. I want to see better play calling from Zach, or see him give up the play calling to maybe Brian Callahan, the offensive coordinator. I want to see more Joe Mixon runs. He's been doing well. We also drafted a running back who I think has like 2 snaps where he's actually ran with the ball. So let's see what he can do. I want to see more dynamic offenses. I mean, we're seeing what they can do in Miami. We have the players that we can do something similar. We may not have the speed, but we have the talent. I want to see Jordan Battle. Jordan Battle is the big guy I want to see. He's our 3rd round pick out of Alabama. He's a safety, and I think he should start over Nick Scott at this point. He has a lot of the times been the guy who's come in and finished the tackle that Nick Scott missed anyway. But he's still in that rotational role. He's not starting. I want to see more of him, and I think that would help the Bengals grow and would really help this defense because we lost Bates and Bell, and they're 2 of the best safeties in the game. And you can't have that. You can't have these ridiculous tackles where I don't even know what they're trying to do and expect to win a Super Bowl like that.
Cool. Okay. Real quick, couple final comments, and then we'll get out of here. Also, boo to the Bengals for letting the Rams get Whitworth. So Aaron Van Buren, a little salty about that. My buddy Aaron here. So I blame you for that, Josh, for that. It's your fault.
Big Wit made the Rams Super Bowl a little less hard because it was like he deserves a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I hate that it came against the Bengals, but
right.
It's like if you see those questions online and it's like, who, if you could have anyone from your entire team history, would you have come play back with your team? And it's always Anthony Munoz, Willie Anderson Jr., or Big Wit, all offensive linemen. So Bengals fans definitely miss him.
Yeah. Bird gang saying the Bengals all white uniforms are my favorite non-Cardinals jersey. And Xbox Fanatic says perfect for snow games. For sure they'll be invisible. Perfect for their quarterback to receiver throws. Right. So yes. All right. Well, hey, we're gonna wrap this up. Josh, I appreciate you jumping on. It's been great talking to you, catching up with you. If you're watching this, make sure you check out and subscribe. I've got links in the description for Josh on Twitter and on YouTube for the No Butts About It podcast. Make sure you give them a follow. They're doing good work over there. Him and his buddy Chuss, who is tentatively scheduled to be on my show following the Steelers game. So looking forward to catching up with Chuss then. Josh, anything you want to say to folks before we get out of here? What they can expect if and when they follow you?
Yeah, if you follow me, we're going to be able to get some more information. We cover the NFL broadly, but then we also try to focus in more on the AFC North. And I'm putting out more like kind of fun fact videos and trying to get those going. So I appreciate any subscribers that we can get. Our goal by the end of the year was 50, and when I came on the show today, I was at 41. So we're right there. Would love to obviously
come on, TCR community. You can get them to 50. We got enough people, right? There's 14 people in here right
community. Now. I hop in the streams whenever I can. Everyone here has been super nice. Shout out to Silver Wolf. I don't think he's here tonight, but he's always commenting on the videos. So
Silver Wolf is great. Yeah,
he's a great guy. So want to shout him out in case he watches this later. But yeah, I always appreciate coming on here and enjoy my time here.
Awesome. Well, it's been great having you, Josh. We'll do this again at some point when it, we'll get you back on Mock Draft Monday, again and stuff. So I appreciate you being here. Folks watching know me, know where to find me. So what I'm going to do is what I always do. I'm going to get these shout outs to the channel members, to tell them, get my quick thank you to them. And then we're going to get the song playing and we're going to get out of here. So everyone, peace.
Hey, yo, it's Joe Mo. He's the host of Mock Draft Monday on the Cardinals show. So join the live, hit like and subscribe. Enjoy the podcast tonight. Enjoy the podcast tonight.